A financial model is easily the most valuable tool in an organization. It tells you not only where the company is going, but also where it's been and how to bridge the gap. And after building financial models for over 100 companies in my career and training hundreds of professionals, in this video, I want to go through the 7 steps to building a robust financial model. So let's get started with step number 1. And this goes back to what I just said. The best financial models not only show projections, but also show historicals. So for that reason, I like to always start with my historical information. Now, when I say historical information, that can be your profit and loss, your balance sheet, your revenue information, your headcount information, any existing information that's going to form the basis for our upcoming projections. And by the way, if you want to get this infographic, as well as tons of other infographics that I have in this video, I'm giving that away entirely for free in the comments. If you also want your own financial modeling template, you could also get that for free by trying our tool, Model Wiz. Just go to modelwiz.com and click Create Financial Model after you download our plugin. You'll get a beautiful 3-statement model that's dynamic and easy to update. And if you have your own data, you can link your QuickBooks Online information and in one click, get your data mapped to the financial model. So going back to the 7 steps, now that I have my actual base information, it's time to create my model. And that involves creating a 3-statement model by linking the income statement, balance sheet, and statement of cash flows. Now, a lot of people get tripped up over this step and they think it's really complicated, but in reality, it's super simple. I'm not going to go over the full details here, but I have a video that walks you through from start to finish how exactly to do that on your own. After you've connected all 3 of your financial statements, you now have the financial model that you could start populating. And probably the most important area to populate a financial model is going to be the revenue build. Now, this is the part that can be tricky to create a template out of because no 2 businesses are the same. Every business has a different way in which they acquire customers, retain those customers, sell to those customers, and all the other aspects that affect their financial statements. But while no 2 revenue builds are the same, there is a framework that you can follow. And I like to call that the Revenue Sources Framework, which includes the acronym EPN. The E standing for your existing customers, the P standing for your pipeline customers, with the N forming the new customers. So going back to step number 1, we spoke about the importance of importing all the existing information for your business. And one of those pieces of information involves your existing customers. So here you may understand who the customer is, when exactly their renewal date is, how much exactly the contract is worth, so that each month in the future, you could predict who will renew and their renewal likelihood. The same can also apply for your pipeline customers. The idea is that you bring in the information from your CRM showcasing every single deal that's warm in your pipeline. You then assign a close likelihood to each and every deal, and now you have a mechanism where each month you can refresh that data and you'll get an accurate prediction of how much revenue you expect to get from your pipeline. For forecasting revenue from new customers, it gets a little trickier, but there really are no rules. Well, I take it back. There's just one rule. The most important thing with forecasting revenue is to ensure that your inputs are driving your outputs. A lot of times I see companies just put a random number for how much they think they're going to do on revenue. Well, that doesn't inform anyone about how exactly they're getting to that number. More importantly, when you actualize your forecast the following period, if you miss that number, you're pretty much in the dark for how you even got it to begin with. So here are 9 different ways that you can forecast revenue. You can use a sales team where the inputs is the amount of sales hires multiplied by their quota to get to the total customers. You can utilize partnerships where the inputs are the number of partners times the referrals per month per partner and maybe a conversion rate. Or maybe your business utilizes product-led growth, where each month you'll get a certain amount of organic impressions just by the product being so good. You could analyze historical trends, or you can predict which of your existing customers will have upsells and expansions, or maybe you attend conferences, and each conference brings in a certain amount of leads, which convert into paying customers. And for an e-commerce company, probably the most common way that they'll forecast revenue is via paid marketing. So that can involve Google ads, Facebook ads, LinkedIn or YouTube ads. You could also go ahead and hire a PR firm or hire an influencer. Hey, how you doing? Looking to get your brand in front of a bunch of finance and accounting professionals? Again, it doesn't matter how you forecast revenue. What matters the most is that you're doing that dynamically with your inputs resulting in your outputs. Now, in many ways, if your business is very early stage, you may be able to just stop at this point. Early stage investors oftentimes really only care about the blueprint for how exactly your company is going to make money. But if your company is a little more mature, or if you want to add a lot more insight into your finance and accounting function, there's so much more you can do. Starting with your biggest expense, and probably your most challenging to control, Of course, I'm talking about your headcount. Now again, going back to that first step, I need to understand who is currently on my team and the details around each hire in order to project out my headcount spend. From there, I could also layer on projected hires to help me understand what my business would look like based off of certain key decisions for each hire. There are a few important things to focus on whenever forecasting headcount. First, you can take a simplified method or a more detailed method. A simplified method involves you just punching in numbers for the amount of hires that you want to bring on, multiplied by an average cost per hire. Now again, if your business is very early stage, that may be sufficient. But I like to get more details by actually importing each and every single one of my hires and then understanding their start date, their gross salary, their department, whether a full-time employee where they'll get fully loaded costs, or whether they are a consultant in which we'll just pay out their salary. When calculating the headcount spend for these hires, there are a few other things to keep in mind. First, it's important to prorate their salary based off of when they start and when they end. So someone who starts on the 15th of the month will really only get 50% of their salary in that first month. The same thing if they're terminated mid-month. Similarly, like we spoke about, those people who are a full-time employee will also get payroll taxes, health benefits, and payroll admin fees, oftentimes equaling about 20% of their total salary. And once you have your headcount out of the way, it's time to forecast out the rest of your P&L. And this to me may be the easiest part on forecasting, because there are so many ways that you could forecast your P&L, and no way is right or wrong. You could use a 6-month average, or you can take the prior month's balance. Perhaps you're using a percentage of revenue, which is common for your cost of goods sold. Or maybe you're attaching $1 for every person on your team from your headcount tab, like for office equipment. But you don't have to stop there. It could be a fixed assumption or a year-over-year growth, say if you're going through an audit every year, or you can input a value for the annual amount and then just divide by 12. Probably one of my favorite ways, especially as a company grows to multiple departments, is to create an intake form. Send that over to each department head, collect what they expect their department to look like, and factor that into my financial model. And then lastly, sometimes the accounts in your chart of accounts just don't really need to have values, so you can leave a 0 for that. And while forecasting the P&L may be simple, forecasting the balance sheet is a lot trickier, but super important. Now, if you're on the cash basis of accounting, you may not have so much activity on your balance sheet, though you can still have a loan or inventory. A lot of the clients that I work with, though, are on the accrual basis of accounting, which means whatever they show on their profit and loss won't necessarily equate to their cash flows, and that's where the balance sheet comes in. The general idea is that anytime an asset goes up in value, that has a negative cash impact, because instead of receiving cash, you received an asset. The reverse is also true. If your assets go down, that means that most likely you converted an asset into cash. Liabilities and owner's equity behave the opposite way. If they go up, that means instead of paying in cash, you retained your cash. Or maybe you received a loan or an investment. The opposite is also true. When those values go down, your cash will go down because you paid off a debt. The key with balance sheet forecasting is to follow the base framework. Your beginning balance plus any additions minus any subtractions gets you your ending balance. Here's an example of how that's applied to, let's say, accounts receivable. You take your beginning balance, add any amounts for invoices issued, subtract out any amounts for amounts collected, and then you get to your ending balance. There are a bunch of other balance sheet accounts that are important. Here are some of my favorite, and again, how they work following the base formula. And the good news is, once you have your balance sheet forecasted, there really is just one last step, and this is my favorite, presenting your information with beautiful, dynamic dashboards. Now that could be a KPI dashboard, or a summary P&L, or a comparison cash flow statement, or perhaps my favorite, a budget versus actuals. The key idea is that these dashboards should lie directly in your financial model so that your financial reporting becomes a breeze. And that's the entire reason why I built Model Wiz. I found that a lot of finance and accounting professionals struggled when creating financial models, but more importantly, presenting those financial models to key stakeholders. And watch how simple it is. You can just go to Excel, download the add-in, click Create a Financial Model, and boom, there's your model. When you're ready, you can click this Export to PDF button and present it to your stakeholders. Each month, as you need a refresh, you can just hit this roll forward button and we'll detect any new accounts and automatically update it. It's all the benefits of Excel while also utilizing an automation for pulling and transforming your data. And once you're done with those 7 steps, congrats, you have a financial model. But don't stop there, because every month, as you update, it's important to analyze where were you on and where were you off. And in order to do that, you'll want to get really detailed with your budget versus actuals. That's why I suggest you watch this video over here, where I'll walk you through how exactly to do that. I'm Josh, your CFO guy, and I'll catch you in the next one.